This interview is part of our Road to IGF series. You can find the rest by clicking here. Opus Magnum has players creating machines for developing potions and poisons, tinkering with parts and mechanisms to refine perfect alchemical devices. This machine-building process earned Opus Magnum nominations for Excellence in Design and the Sumus McNally Grand Prize. In the 2019 IGF, Gamasutra sat down with Zachtronics and Matthew Burns, developers of this puzzling game of mechanical perfection, to talk about giving players room to find creative solutions, the joy of fiddling with processes, and the beauty of mechanisms in motion. So, with us Zachtronics and Matthew Burns. Bart was the lead designer and creative director, and Burns wrote the story and composed the music. With us speaking jointly on behalf of Zachtronics. Bart started making games in college, putting them on the internet for free. Spacecam 2011 was his first commercial game. Burns has worked in games for a while and joined Zachtronics full-time in 2016. Opus Magnum is a refinement of ideas first explored in one of Zach's early Flash games from over 10 years ago, the Bureau of Alchemical Engineering. Both the world and the mechanics are developed from the original ideas in that game. The engine itself is built with C-key, STL, and the IRECTX Pingo, depending on the platform. The art was painted in Photoshop and Flash, and the music was created in Logic Pro. Most Zachtronics games are about making machines do things. In each case, there's a certain limited toolset provided to transform inputs into outputs. This one happens to have a greater focus on physical movement of components using arms. So there's a lot of circular motion that results in designs reminiscent of clockwork. It was a natural outcome of the design space we work in. A lot of Zachtronics games are about creating a system that manufactures something. It's satisfying to watch factories work, and especially so when it's one of your own design. And the game's animated GIF spot feature helps players share their unique solutions easily. In general, the idea is to try to create a certain minimum set of tools that create emergent properties when used together and balance them with cost so that players can optimize for that if they like. We do not design with specific optimal strategies already in mind in our experience. As long as the tool set is expressive and the problem is open-ended, we will seek creative solutions from players, including optimizations we had not really dreamed of before. There are different metrics to optimize for, such as cost, area, hour cycles, and some solutions can be particularly nice looking, like symmetrical ones. One way is through the leaderboards. You finish a puzzle and see your friend completed it in fewer cycles. So you see if maybe you could shave off a few cycles yourself. But some players are not interested in the leaderboards, and are more interested in simply challenging themselves on their own terms. We deliberately do not offer any kind of in-game rewards for optimization, so the players who do are often more intrinsically motivated. Our games are usually built around fake interpretations of systems, like chemistry or electrical engineering. In this sense, alchemy is no different. It's another system of knowledge that happens to be a little more undefined than the others. Aside from the alchemy, there are not actually a lot of fantastical elements in Opus Magnum. The story is pretty grounded. In fact, it's about the choices you have to make when you work in the service of greater powers. Newsbrief. Half-Life 2 and Puerto Rico has rejoined Valve. Nearly 2 years after leaving the studio, Willopo departed the company in February 2017, after over a decade at the studio. during which time he worked on a menagerie of popular titles, including Half-Life 2, Episode 1, Episode 2, Portal, and both Left 4 Dead games. His return was initially spotted by Reddit user Trenchman, who spied Volport's name in the credits for Valve's latest release Artifact. Trenchman then reached out to Valve boss Gabe Newell, who replied to confirm the news, with Valve's network confirming the legitimacy of the email. It's unclear what convinced Volport to return, although it probably has something to do with Half-Life 3. The 2019 Game Developers Conference has released the results of the 7th Annual State of the Industry Survey, revealing trends in the game industry ahead of GD 2019 in March. The survey compiles responses from nearly 4,000 game developers, and reflects that nearly half of game developers support game industry unionization, as well as uncertainty around Steam's revenue-sharing model, and insights into the amount of time developers have spent working overtime hours in so-called crunch. The State of the Industry Survey is the 7th entry in the ongoing series of yearly reports and serves as a snapshot of the game industry, illustrating industry trends ahead of DD 2019, organized by UPM. DD 2019 takes place March 18-22 at the Moscow Convention Center in San Francisco, California. Nearly half of game industry professionals think game industry workers should unionize. Unionization is a hot topic in the game industry these days, and nearly half of the game industry professionals surveyed think it's a good idea. When asked whether they thought game industry workers should unionize, 47% said yes, 26% said maybe, 16% said no, and 11% said they did not know. However, when asked whether they think video game workers actually will unionize, only 21% said yes. The largest share, 39%, gave an uncertain, maybe. 25% of respondents said they do not think it will happen, and 15% said that they do not know. It is critical that people who work in games are able to maintain a healthy lifestyle, live normal lives, and be able to enjoy a high quality of life that will work well for their spouses and families, wrote one respondent. But there is too much supply. Too many people want into the industry, claimed another. Those who unionize will be shoved out of the way as companies hire those with fewer demands. Steam is the storefront to beat on PC, but some devs thrive on smaller competitors. Given how many notable new game storefronts debuted in 2018, such as the Epic Games Store and Discord Store, this year, survey respondents had the option to disclose which PC Mac game storefronts they sell their games on, and what percentage of their platform sales came from each. As expected, the most popular answer was Steam, with roughly 47% of those who responded to this question saying that they sell games on Valve's storefront. Of the respondents who said they sell their games on Steam, the majority, 54%, say Steam accounts for 75 to 100% of their sales revenue, and another 17% say it makes up 50 to 74% of their total revenue. Conversely, GOG, Humble, and Discord each accounted for less than 10% of revenues earned by a notable majority of the respondents who sell games there. Interestingly, while indie-centric stores each have a similar ratio, 52% of devs who use it say it generates less than 10% of their revenues. It also had a surprisingly high number of respondents, 28%, who said it accounts for 75 to 100% of their earnings. This shows that ITCH's open approach have likely attracted smaller indies who sell exclusively on it. Most game makers are not sure Steam still justifies its 30% cut. In light of how competition is heating up for PC games marketplaces, the survey also asked respondents whether they felt that Steam in its current form justifies a 30% cut of their game's revenue, which it currently takes. Only 6% said yes, and 17% said maybe. The rest said no or were not sure, with the largest share, 32%, saying Steam currently does not justify Valve's revenue share. 27% said such a large cut probably is not justified, and 17% said they just did not know. Take less revenue from sales and curate their store better for visibility for real games, is what one respondent wrote when we asked what features respondents felt Steam could add to better serve developers. Better support for amateur, hobbyist, and independent creators, wrote another. More fostering of things like game jams and actual development communities to be created on the platform.